Hi everybody, welcome to this presentation. My name is Kirti Chavan and I work with Snow Leopard Conservancy India Trust in Ladakh. My work involves mitigating human brown bear conflict in Zanskar, which is a remote region in Ladakh that borders Himachal Pradesh. Brown bears are found a lot of places in India like Kashmir or neighboring state of Himachal Pradesh, Uttarakhand and parts of Sikkim. But in this presentation, I will just talk about Zanskar because that's where I work. And I'll share my knowledge about what I learned about brown bears in working in Zanskar. Let me begin the presentation. The fascinating bears of Ladakh. Now, why I find these bears fascinating, you will learn through the course of this presentation. But to give you a background, Ladakh is a high-altitude desert, trans-Himalayan region of India. Unlike the Great Himalayas, the Great Himalayan range, the trans-Himalayas are not as densely vegetated, but they do support unique type of wildlife, very diverse and uniquely adapted to harsh environments such as this. To give you a brief background of the elevation profile, if you have to look at Mumbai, the iconic structure Gateway of India, which probably rises only 5 meters above sea level, to say Delhi, where India Gate rises about 216 meters above sea level. We come to Ladakh, Leh Town, Shanti Stupa, which is about 3,600 meters above sea level. So the elevation, the profile is quite steep and we're really high. The air is much thinner. And which is why the adaptation of life is quite unique here. Even if you say Ladakh is a high altitude, harsh environment, it still supports you very diverse life. And if you just look at the main carnivore group, you have this iconic snow leopard, which is the top predator of the region. Then you have the Tibetan wolf, which is also found all across Ladakh. Then you have the Himalayan brown bear, which is the largest land predator. Unlike the snow leopard and wolf, brown bears are not found all across Ladakh. They're just found in say Kargil and Zanskar district. But we've had some reports of brown bears being spotted elsewhere in Ladakh as well. But we are yet to understand and study if it's a one-off occurrence or it's probably the brown bears are expanding their territory or not. Then we have the Eurasian lynx and then the wild dog, which is also quite rare to see now. Parasus cat, very shy cat species found in eastern Ladakh mainly. Then you have the red fox, which is found all across, and the very rare Tibetan sand fox. Apart from the carnivore group, we have a lot of herbivores and insect and bird species, making this land a very unique, unique place to live on its own. So snow leopard, being the iconic top predator of this region, shares the landscape with the Himalayan brown bear. Not much is known about the Himalayan brown bear in Trans-Himalayas because not many studies have been carried out. And we are attempting to understand how these amazing animals live in this particular region. I'll tell you more about this, but to understand the evolution of brown bear itself, about 40 million years ago, a group of carnivora sort of diverged and then formed. About 30-35 million years ago, they sort of separated into Ursidae and Procyonidae. Procyonidae are current day red panda and raccoon, and Ursidae sort of went on to become the present-day bears. But about 20-25 million years ago, giant panda had its own sort of different evolutionary journey. It is still a Ursidae, a bear species, but it's quite different from other bears that found all across the planet. Now we have about 8 bear species on this planet, wherein the polar bear and the brown bear are known to have sort of diverged quite recently. I do not have the exact bearings on when exactly this happened, but about 100 million years ago or so, the brown bears and polar bears sort of diverged and came back together, is what I've understood. But now they are two separate different species, but closely related. So we have polar bear, the brown bear, Asiatic black bear, American black bear, spectacled bear, which is also called the Andean bear, the sloth bear found almost everywhere in India, Indian plains, the sun bear, which is found in northeast of India, and the giant panda found in the east. So amongst the entire bear family, if you look at the two extremes, the polar bear and the giant panda, polar bear has his own unique adaptation to the Arctic life, being primarily carnivorous, to the giant panda dwelling in the forests of the east, being primarily herbivorous. We have the brown bear, which are somewhere in between, the omnivorous bear species. There are other bear species which are omnivorous as well, but the brown bear is a highly adaptable animal, and it is one of the bear species that was found almost everywhere on this planet. Its habitat has been shrinking consistently, unfortunately, but it's still the most commonly found bear species, and its habitat ranges from anywhere from the coastal regions of Alaska to dry desert, Gobi deserts of Mongolia. So it can live anywhere, and it is sort of specialized. It sort of specializes how to survive in the harshest of environment. Now, being omnivorous also has a lot of attributes to how these animals have adapted. For example, brown bear, polar bear, and giant panda skulls. If you look at the dental structure, the polar bear, being the primarily carnivorous species, does not have premolars. Brown bear shows some presence of premolars, and giant panda prominent premolars. Premolars are the flat teeth just after the canine, used for grinding and chewing thick vegetation, which is what is needed for the giant panda, not so much for the polar bear. So the dentures show how their unique adaptation and how their skull structures have evolved over a period of time. But in brown bears, for example, the diet also sort of determines a lot of factors such as the size of the bear or its reproductive rate. For example, in India, the Himalayan brown bear could be found as tall as 5 to 6 feet, but the Alaskan coastal bears, especially the brown bears of Kodiak Island, would grow up to 8.5 to 9 feet, almost as big as polar bears. So the diet plays a very important role, and in the size of the bear. Also, the reproductive rate is known to be less. The Himalayan brown bear are known to be less reproductive compared to the European or the Alaskan brown bears. It's because of the diet, because the diet is mainly plant-based out here for the Himalayan brown bears. So there was a study conducted by Garrett and Douglas in the region of Alaska, and they were sort of studied bears at the Kodiak Island. The bears that lived in coastal area who had 60 to 100% of their diet comprising of meat, which is salmon, were found to be larger than the bears that were found in the interiors, where there was less meat consumption, and they were found to be smaller in size. So that's quite interesting factor as well. Now, this is one example of how big a sort of a bear can grow. This is Bart the bear, a very popular bear featuring in a lot of Hollywood films. Its origins from coastal Alaska. So it tells you how big the bears can be. Their diet is primarily meat-based. Now, there are about 16 species of brown bears. Of them, one of them is the Himalayan brown bear, which I've been fortunate to study them in this region. In India, we have about 4 bear species. Of the 8 bear species found all across the planet, 4 do occur in India. One of them is the brown bear, the Asiatic black bear, the sloth bear, and the sun bear. Now, this is a snapshot of brown bears by Dr. Ali Nawaz in Deosai National Park. You can see the different coat patterns of the bears. This is a brown bear, but you can see some colors ranging to golden brown to almost yellow to dark deep brown looking almost black. So the patterns, the coat color changes quite drastically, or depending on where they are. Also, the diet is primarily plant-based, according to the study conducted by Dr. Ali Nawaz in Deosai National Park. 93% of the diet is plant-based for the Himalayan brown bears, and we know that is also true in Kupti Wildlife Sanctuary. A study conducted by Dr. Bipin Rathod says 80% of the diet of Himalayan brown bears is plant-based. So that makes sense. It makes sense to see bears in a landscape such as this, which is lush alpine meadows which are thickly vegetated, a lot of herbs, which sort of complement the dietary requirements of the bears. But we cannot forget the fact that bears also live in a trans-Himalayan landscape such as this. And they've been living in a place in Zanskar in Ladakh for a very long time, and they've been thriving. They've been reproducing as well. So this also cannot be ignored as a good habitat for the bears. Now, if you look at map of Zanskar, there are a lot of trekking trails that crisscross through the region, and then it sort of brings people close to bears, and there could be bear encounters. So this is one of the aspects that I'm very vocal about when people go out trekking, seeking adventure in a bear habitat, and they do not know that bear exists in this country. It could turn into a dangerous situation. For example, one in Suru Valley, when I was part of a mountaineering expedition to Mount Nun, we were at advanced camp, and this is one of the camping site, quite high, almost 5,000 meters. And one night there was this commotion, and all the porters and guides were sort of panicking because they saw a bear around here. So bears can be found around here, and then if you're not aware, you could sort of end up in a situation which is not very helpful for the bears or you. So we talk to a lot of the entire adventure community and try to tell them how do you follow some safety protocols when you're in the bear country, bear habitat. For example, when you're out camping, you prefer to camp close to the water body. But if it's a bear habitat, you are going to find bears very close to water bodies. One of our studies, we found that bears seem to be frequenting water bodies more often than the higher slopes. So it might be a good idea for you to pitch your tent away from the water body, do your cooking, washing during the daytime, do not venture out at night. Make sure the cooking spot where you cook your food and clean is far away from the tent where you're going to be sleeping, so it doesn't attract the bears when you're fast asleep. Also, when you enter the valleys and gorges, so you have to look ahead. You carry one binoculars and look ahead into the trail. See if there's any animal out there. There is nothing more dangerous than a surprised shocked bear. It could attack, and so it's always a good idea to look ahead. If you spot an animal, make sure you make some sound, make your presence felt. If the bear is going to see you, it is definitely going to move away from there, and there's less chance of any unfortunate incident. So this is again, like, bears could be found anywhere. I mean, you can. This is a picture of a mother and a cub traversing a very steep slope. And they make it home in a landscape like this. Again, look at this photo of the landscape is not as thickly vegetated, very sparsely vegetated, and there's mother and cub again walking around here. This is another picture of a little gentler slope, but the elevation is quite high, about more than 4,200 meters. This is a big brown bear feeding on a plant species, which is wild rose. This is wild rose. When sort of wild rose blooms in summer, late summer, after the bloom, it sort of these fruits are formed, the wild rose buds, we call it. And the brown bears feed on it. This plant is very important for the bear sustenance, say from late autumn to winter. And you can see that in the bear poop, bear scat. If you are doing a bear survey, science survey, it's very easy to do that in autumn, because if the bears have been feeding on the wild rose, the color of the scat is bright red, orange, of sorts, and then sprinkled with seeds. So you can't miss that. And if you're out in the bear habitat, trekking, and you come across something like this, you know this area is frequented by bear, and that you have to be careful. Apart from the wild rose, bears also feed on wild carrot, a type of wild carrot species found only in Zanskar, not even in Kargil were these found. So when the bears feed on a lot of vegetation, this is how their scalp looks like. It's tubular, full of fiber. It's a big lump of dung. You can't miss it, and it's quite evident there's a bear here, and then you have to be very, very careful around this area. My study involves understanding why the bears are coming into the villages and what we can do to sort of discourage the bears coming into the homes of people. The bears are coming in here looking for food, easy food, easy meals. So here's a picture of one house. The bear tried to break through the window, but it could not. So then it started probing the walls of the house, and then it found a loose rock, and it started removing all the rocks, made a hole big enough for it to enter inside and steal food and then run away. Similarly, and this is another picture of another bear which found a weak spot in the house and then started digging hole. If you can see, there is the claw mark on the wall. So the bears are very, very intelligent, and they interact with their surrounding, and they are sort of problem solvers. Now in this picture, you can see what local people have done. They try to stack some metal sheets against the wall and the window, so hoping that if the bear comes and tries to climb up the house or try to dig a hole or break into the window, the metal sheets are going to make some sound and it will alert the people. So they do what they can, and then other things that people have tried, something like this grilled with the window grills with spikes, thinking that if the bear comes and tries to push through the window, the spikes are going to poke and then sort of discourage the bear to break into. But bears, again, like I said, they are very powerful. They are very strong and intelligent. They're problem solvers. If something like this, like a grill, can give them a grip, they can easily hold on to it and pull it out. So in this picture, you can see one of the frames of that spike grill has been pulled out by the bear. So it's quite tricky to work on mitigation measures to discourage the bears. Now in this picture, you can see the door of a livestock enclosure where there are cattle inside. They sort of bolted nails on the door, thinking that if the bear is going to try to push, it was going to prick, and then the bear is going to not open the door. But bear, being the smart animal, it sort of found a spot where it was found a spot where the nail's not going to pick it, and then it sort of broke open the door and still got access. This is a picture from internet. This is not from Zanskar, but to show how the bears can tackle barbed wire fencing as well. In one of the villages, the locals have put up a fence around a monastery with barbed wires. They thought that the bears would not be able to tackle it, but that doesn't stop the bears. So they know how to tackle the barbed wire as well. So placing the sort of feet on to the places where there are no spikes, and they can still tackle. So these are very intelligent animals, and they know how they interact with their environment quite effectively. They know what is natural, what is man-made, it seems. Now, we've had a lot of locals telling that some of the villages which did not have bear incidents in the past suddenly have started presence of bear. And they think it could be because of the man-made structures like these bridges. A lot of times the massive big rivers act as deterrent or act as a barrier for the bears to cross from one area to the other. But when you have bridges and bridges like this, the bears are easily able to sort of cross over and then occupy new territory. So this is something that needs to be studied and investigated further. We have identified a couple of villages which had no bear incidents in past, and this year we've known that there are bridges being constructed. We are going to observe them for a couple of years and see if they report bear presence. So we know for sure if that happens, then bears are actually using human infrastructure to move around as well. So that tells us we have to be more careful in planning our infrastructure, and because everything affects in the landscape. So when I say bears lots interact, this is one video I just came across over internet. Someone had sent it to me. I don't know the source of this video, but here there's a bear just walking on the road in the video sequence, and it sees the road sign which is toppled. It just goes to the road sign, it just puts it upright and walks away. So it's not smelling, it's not doing anything, it's not playing with the road sign or trying to figure out what it is. It just goes to the road sign, puts it upright and walks away. So I don't know what to think about this video. We don't know what the bear was thinking, why it did what it did, but it also says it probably knows how to, like I said, it knows how to interact with its surroundings, and it knows what is man-made and probably what's not, and things like that. But even if when we set up camera traps, which are remote sensing cameras hidden on rocks, meant to capture the animals when they pass by, bears sort of figure out where the camera is hidden. They sort of take it out, smell, play around, sometimes break it as well. So they're problem solvers. One of the study that I came across from Europe somewhere, where a researcher had put bear in an enclosure, and food items were hung beyond the bear's reach, and there were a lot of things kept in the enclosure. So the bear figured out after a while, it sort of dragged a piece of log and things like that. It created a platform for itself to climb onto and to get to the food source. So very intelligent. And then when you're trying to work to create deterrence to discourage bears from coming into the human habitation, it's quite challenging, because eventually they will learn how to tackle these deterrents. So this is a photo of a roof of the house. A bear tried to come into the home, and it tried to break into the window or the door. It could not, so it climbed on top of the house and took out the chimney, tried to dig a hole through the roof to get inside the house. This is a very recent incident, exactly about 20 days from today. This has happened in Zanskar. Mother and two cubs came into the village very early in the morning. They climbed on top of the roof of the house. When the sun came out, the mother climbed down the ladder. There was a ladder somewhere around here. But when she climbed down, she accidentally knocked off the ladder, and the ladder fell off. And the two cubs were stuck on the roof. And the drama continued for quite some time. And one of the cubs then later figured out the roof was not very strong. So it started digging a hole through the roof and jumped onto the ground floor, broke the window, joined his mother outside. The second cub also followed. So they're very, very intelligent. They know how to solve a particular problem, and then they know how to navigate. Now they know how to navigate through human landscape as well. So that's quite interesting. And for a very long time, we were thinking bears are driven by sense of smell, which is also very accurate. Their sense of smell is quite strong, and maybe that's what is that is what they're using to get into homes of people and steal food. But I came across a lot of structures like these, abandoned structures, which did not have any incentive for the bear to come in and break into the structure. Like this is a community hall. I've come across a lot of schools which do not have midday meal scheme, so they do not store food in there. And there is no incentive for the bear to break into the structure. They're probably just investigating. If there is a human structure, there could be some access to food, is what they think. So it's not very linear when it comes to working with bears. There's so many variables that you need to play around and consider when you develop deterrence. So my study about understanding why the bears are coming into the village and what exactly are they doing. So I've got an opportunity to study 265 incidents of bears coming into the human homes. So we know they were attacking the kitchen stores, and they were sometimes sort of killing the livestock. What we found was 198 incidents were actually involving raiding of kitchen stores, eating sugar, rice, and things like that, and only 67 incidents of bears killing livestock. which also makes sense. Killing a livestock like a sheep, goat, or a cow is a lot of work, and a lot of times when they kill an animal, kill a livestock, they are not able to eat because the villagers wake up and they drive the bear away. So all the effort that's gone into killing an animal is wasted. Vis-a-vis, it's much easier to just break into the kitchen, steal your food, and run away. So maybe bears have figured that out, but we're still trying to understand this in more detail. Every time they've broken into kitchen stores, we understood what was stored in the kitchen store. So it's rice, barley, wheat, butter, curd. Churpe is a hard cheese, which is sometimes sweet because sugar is added to that and things like that. Of all these other items, the bears seem to be targeting sugar, sweet cheese, and rice more than anything else. It also makes sense because these are the food items when you eat, you can easily put on weight faster. And these incidents happen late autumn, when the bears are preparing for hibernation. It's very, very important for them to put on fat. And we don't know if they have figured out this easy way to put on fat. So we have the food conditioning of bear is a big concern, and we have to figure out ways to recondition them and sort of move them away from human food items. One of the deterrents that we worked on is predator deterrent light. Now, these lights are randomized sequence of flashes, red, blue, and white light which flash. It creates sort of confusion in minds of bears and gives them a perception of movement. So the animal tends not to approach this particular site, but it doesn't stop them from approaching the other end of the house and things like that. And so although very effective in keeping the bears away, it may not be a long-term solution is what we think. Apart from the lights, we also developed bear-proof food storage container, which is a very strong container where you can store food. It has a locking mechanism which requires human hand, and bears cannot tackle, hopefully. This has got good feedback. Over the last 2 years, we have set up about 10 boxes such as these, and twice we have 2 incidents where the bears have come and tried to tackle the box and they were not able to sort of open it. So hopefully more of when we use more of such deterrents, it could recondition the bear, thinking that it's a waste of their time trying to break into people's homes, and then they'll eventually sort of stop coming into the human homes looking for food. That's assumption. So we don't know if this is coming, but we got to try more such deterrents and see how we can keep the bears away from people, so both brown bears and humans are safe. Apart from that, we are talking to local communities, talking to them about why the bears are important. Bears are they provide a very important ecosystem. So ecosystem services such as regeneration of plant is also quite dependent on the bear activity. Bears seem to dig a lot of soil to dig out roots and things like that they eat. They try to dig out marmots, and while doing that, they sort of turn the soil, which is very, very important for regeneration of a lot of local plant species, which then feed the livestock. A lot of so most of the villages follow agro-pastoral lifestyle, wherein they grow their food in the farmlands and they take their livestock up in the mountains for grazing, then from where they get their dairy. So without vegetation in the mountains, the livestock will not have much to eat, and then that's going to affect people, and it has lots of a cascading effect. Apart from that, brown bears also feed on marmots, which could cause crop damage, and they keep population of insects in control. Brown bears are known to feed on locusts, crickets, and other insects, which could be very harmful for crop. So there could be a cascading effect if we just take out the brown bears from the entire ecosystem. So everything has to work in coordinates with and in harmony with each other. So we try to tell people about the role of brown bears and other animals in their ecology. We also sort of worked with religious heads, involved religion into conservation, because every religion plays a very important role and has a very important conservation message sort of built in it, and then we try to amplify that, and the religious leaders such as in sort of help us spread the conservation message, and this creates a very conservation friendly environment in the region. Apart from working with the communities, we are also carry out a lot of other scientific work. We have carrying out a brown bear survey to understand how the brown bears sort of use the landscape, which are the what are the kind of habitats that they prefer to use, what are the kind of terrains they tend to avoid, and things like that, what could be the vegetation status in the entire landscape. So it gives a great insight about how the bears have been living and what probably is causing this change. Why are they turning towards villages in search of food? So a lot of science surveys were carried out this year, where we had covered a major area of Zanskar and have great insight. Hopefully this sort of information results in a long-term conservation action. So we are very hopeful about that. And so brown bears are quite fascinating. They are very intelligent, strong, and then they use the landscape very effectively. They contribute to regeneration of plant species and things like that. But they also have they also share a very different, very unique relationship with other co-predators such as the snow leopard and the wolf. So the habitat use itself, like for example, in one of the valleys we set up this camera trap to record the bear movement, and soon after we had a big brown bear walking past this particular trail, and minutes later we had a snow leopard mother followed by 2 cubs. It was fascinating. So although both these animals prefer a very different habitat, snow leopards preferring a very steep, rugged landscape, while the brown bears preferring a little less rugged, more vegetated landscape. Their paths do coincide, and it'd be very interesting to study how the top co-predators interact with each other and how they use this landscape. So our study is still ongoing, where there's much to learn, there's much to do, and there's a lot of support that we need from people all across. So if you can, do extend your help. Go to milab.com, Himalayan Brown Bear Conservation in Zanskar page. If you could extend any help, we'll be very grateful. And if you have any questions, I'll be more than happy to answer your question. Please email those questions to kirtikc@gmail.com. That's my email ID. You can visit our website, or you can follow for constant updates. You can follow the Instagram page, the Himalayan Brown Bear Project. Usually most of my updates for general public is on the Instagram page, so you will get to know the latest in what we are doing on this particular page. So that's all for now, and I really want to thank you for your time, and would really appreciate if you could extend your help. And thank you once again.